He was running late for the most important interview of his life when he saw her. Standing in the rain, mascara running down her cheeks, staring at a flat tire like it had personally betrayed her. Every car rushed past, splashing more water on her already soaked dress. He checked his watch. 20 minutes until the interview at Morrison Tech. The chance to finally prove he was more than his past mistakes. What would you have done? Would you have kept driving? He pulled over, his only good suit getting drenched the moment he stepped out. She looked at him with a mixture of hope and suspicion. "I've got this," she said, but her hands were shaking. He recognized that shake, the same one he had when his startup crashed 2 years ago. "Let me help," he said. And in that moment, something shifted in the universe. She watched as he knelt in the mud, ruining his interview shoes. His hands moved with practiced precision, but she noticed the kindness in how he explained each step. When was the last time a stranger had looked at you like you mattered? Really mattered. Not for what you could give them, but just because you were human and you needed help. "You're going to be late for something," she said. It wasn't a question, he laughed. "Yeah, job interview, big one. But this feels more important somehow." He couldn't explain why. Sometimes the most profound truths come wrapped in the simplest moments. A flat tire, a choice. A human being choosing another human being over their own agenda. She insisted on giving him money. He refused. Finally, she asked for his name. "Just so I can thank you properly someday," she said. He gave it to her, thinking he'd never see her again, thinking he'd just lost his chance at Morrison Tech but gained something he couldn't quite name. 5 minutes after he drove away, she made a phone call. "Push the interview back an hour," she said. "And when he arrives, send him straight to my office." The universe has a funny way of testing us, doesn't it? He thought he was just changing a tire. He had no idea he was changing his life. He had no idea that sometimes when you choose kindness over ambition, the universe conspires to give you both. 2 years before that rainy day, he had everything. The promising startup, the investors lining up, the magazine covers calling him the next big thing. But when the technology failed and his partner disappeared with what was left, he found himself alone. The kind of alone that teaches you who you really are when nobody's watching. Have you ever built something with your whole heart, only to watch it crumble? His friends vanished with his success. His girlfriend left for someone more stable. He spent 6 months applying for jobs, each rejection a reminder of how far he'd fallen, from CEO to nobody. But failure has a way of teaching lessons success never could. In those dark months, he learned to fix things, real things, cars, appliances, broken computers for neighbors who couldn't afford repair shops. He learned that helping an elderly woman fix her coffee maker could fill your heart in ways a $1 million contract never could. He was preparing for something. He just didn't know what. Every morning, he made a choice to keep going, to keep being kind even when the world had been cruel. Do you know how hard that is? To choose hope when evidence suggests despair? But he did it, day after day, building a different kind of resume, one written in actions, not achievements. The interview at Morrison Tech was his 47th application. He'd researched everything about the company, their values, their vision. He'd practiced his answers 100 times. What he hadn't prepared for was a woman in the rain with a flat tire. Life rarely gives us the tests we've studied for, does it? Instead, it throws us pop quizzes in the form of split-second decisions. He could have driven by, should have, if he was being strategic. But strategy had failed him before. Maybe it was time to try something different. Maybe it was time to trust that doing the right thing is always the right thing, even when it seems to cost you everything. He made his choice in that moment, kneeling in the mud, not knowing he was kneeling before his future, not knowing that sometimes the universe uses flat tires and rain to arrange meetings that boardrooms never could. 2 years before that rainy day, he had everything: the promising startup, the investors lining up, the magazine covers calling, him the next big thing. But when the technology failed and his partner disappeared with what was left, He found himself alone. The kind of alone that teaches you who you really are when nobody's watching. Have you ever built something with your whole heart, only to watch it crumble? His friends vanished with his success. His girlfriend left for someone more stable. He spent 6 months applying for jobs, each rejection a reminder of how far he'd fallen, from CEO to nobody. But failure has a way of teaching lessons success never could. In those dark months, he learned to fix things, real things, cars, appliances, broken computers for neighbors who couldn't afford repair shops. He learned that helping an elderly woman fix her coffee maker could fill your heart in ways a $1 million contract never could. He was preparing for something. He just didn't know what. Every morning, he made a choice to keep going, to keep being kind even when the world had been cruel. Do you know how hard that is? To choose hope when evidence suggests despair? But he did it, day after day, building a different kind of resume, one written in actions, not achievements. The interview at Morrison Tech was his 47th application. He'd researched everything about the company, their values, their vision. He'd practiced his answers 100 times. What he hadn't prepared for was a woman in the rain with a flat tire. Life rarely gives us the tests we've studied for, does it? Instead, it throws us pop quizzes in the form of split-second decisions. He could have driven by, should have, if he was being strategic. But strategy had failed him before. Maybe it was time to try something different. Maybe it was time to trust that doing the right thing is always the right thing, even when it seems to cost you everything. He made his choice in that moment, kneeling in the mud, not knowing he was kneeling before his future, not knowing that sometimes the universe uses flat tires and rain to arrange meetings that boardrooms never could. The elevator doors opened. Morrison Tech's executive floor was legendary, the kind of place where billion-dollar decisions were made over artisanal coffee. He felt out of place immediately. Then he saw her. Do you know that feeling when the universe reveals its sense of humor all at once? She stood by the window, the same woman from the road, but now in a designer suit that probably cost more than his car. CEO. The nameplate on the desk confirmed what his sinking stomach already knew. He'd changed the tire of the one person who could change his life, and he'd told her he had somewhere more important to be. Sit, she said, gesturing to a chair by the window, where equals would sit. Tell me about your startup. He'd prepared, the sanitized version. But looking at her, remembering her hands shaking in the rain, he told the truth. The real truth. About the sleepless nights, the betrayal, the humiliation. He told her about the darkness that followed, but also about the light, the small repairs, the neighbors helped, the gradual rebuilding of a self that wasn't defined by success or failure, but by service. She listened, really listened. Then she told him about her own fall 10 years ago, her first company, the bankruptcy, the year she spent wondering if she'd ever be taken seriously again, the slow climb back, the choice to build Morrison Tech on different values. I almost didn't interview you, she admitted. Your failure was too fresh, but then I watched you choose to help me when you had every reason not to, and I realized something. What truth was waiting in her pause? We've been hiring people who've never been broken, who've never had to choose between their dignity and their decency, who've never learned that sometimes the most important moments in life come disguised as interruptions. She turned to face him fully. Tell me, what do you know about humanitarian technology? He didn't know much, admitted it freely, but he knew about humans, about the elderly woman whose coffee maker he'd fixed, about the single mother whose car he'd repaired for free. He talked about dignity, about how innovation without compassion was just clever cruelty. She smiled. The humanitarian technology division isn't about building the next big app. It's about using our resources to solve problems for people who'll never make us rich. The board thinks I'm crazy, but I think it's why we're really here. The rain intensified outside. Inside, something was shifting. Two people who'd been broken by the world sitting together imagining how to fix it. Not with grand gestures, but with the same steady hands that change flat tires. The position pays less than you made at your startup, she said plainly. The hours are long, the board will question every decision. You'll be building something from nothing, with a small team and a smaller budget. Still interested? Have you ever had someone offer you exactly what you needed, wrapped in everything you feared? He thought about the safe path, the other interviews, the chance to rebuild his reputation carefully without risk. Then he thought about the hundreds of small problems he'd solved that mattered more than any big deal he'd ever closed. He thought about the woman in front of him, who'd built an empire after being broken, who was risking that empire on the belief that business could be better. Yes, he said. No hesitation. She pulled out a contract, not the standard one, something different. One condition, she said. No pretense between us, no corporate games. You tell me the truth, always. We build this thing on radical honesty. Read the contract. The salary was indeed less. But there were provisions he'd never seen. Profit sharing for the communities they'd serve. A mandate to fail fast and learn faster. A budget line item simply labeled unexpected kindness. It was either the smartest contract he'd ever seen or the most naive. Why me? He asked. Really? You could have anyone. She was quiet for a long moment. Because you stopped, in the rain, when you had everything to lose. That tells me more about who you'll be in this position than any resume could. And because I think the best innovations come from people who understand what it's like to need help. He signed the contract. Right there. Sometimes you recognize a moment that's bigger than contracts and clauses. Sometimes you recognize a chance to become who you were meant to be. Not the entrepreneur who'd failed, but someone new. Someone who could use his breaking to help others rebuild. She shook his hand. Firm. Real. You start Monday. The board's going to hate you. They're going to try to kill the project. And I'm going to remind them that Morrison Tech was built on the belief that technology should serve humanity. That sometimes the best person to lead that charge is someone who's been served by humanity when they needed it most. The interview was over, but something else was beginning. He rode the elevator down, different than he'd ridden it up. Not because he had a job, because he had a purpose. Because a flat tire in the rain had shown him that sometimes our biggest detours lead us exactly where we need to go. Monday morning arrived like a test he hadn't studied for. The whispers started before he'd even reached his floor. The failed entrepreneur. The charity hire. The CEO's pet project. Do you know what it's like to start over while everyone's watching, waiting for you to fail again? His team was small. 5 people who'd volunteered for the humanitarian division. Maria, the engineer who'd grown up without clean water. David, the designer whose sister needed affordable prosthetics. Sarah, the developer who'd taught herself to code in a refugee camp. Lynn, the project manager who'd left Google because she was tired of optimizing ad clicks. James, the finance guy who believed spreadsheets could save lives. They gathered in a corner conference room that felt forgotten by the rest of the company. No smart boards, just a whiteboard and a question. How do we use Morrison Tech's resources to solve problems for people who can't pay Morrison Tech prices? The board meeting is tomorrow, he told them. They're expecting presentations, ROI calculations, but I think we should tell them stories instead. Maria spoke about walking 4 miles for water every morning, about the parasites that killed her baby brother, about the simple filtration system that could have saved him. David showed prosthetic designs that could be 3D printed in rural clinics, beautiful enough that kids would want to wear them. Sarah opened her laptop, showed code for educational software that could run on old smartphones, offline capable, translated into languages Silicon Valley had never heard of. Have you ever sat in a room where everyone's personal pain had transformed into professional purpose? They worked through the night, not on PowerPoints, but on prototypes. The CEO stopped by at midnight bringing coffee and questions. She sat on the floor with them, sketching on napkins, adding her own stories. By dawn, they had something. Not a presentation, a revolution disguised as a business plan. The board's going to hate this, she said. It's emotional. It's risky. It's everything they tell you not to do in a board meeting. It's perfect. The sun rose over the city. 7 people who'd been broken by the world, sitting in a forgotten conference room holding plans to fix it. Not with technology for its own sake, but with innovation aimed at dignity, with the belief that the best solutions come from those who've lived the problems. The boardroom was everything the corner conference room wasn't. Mahogany table, leather chairs. The board members filed in, looking at him with polite skepticism. The failed entrepreneur, the CEO's latest crusade. Another bleeding heart project that would drain resources. What do you say to people who've never needed the help you're trying to provide? He started with the numbers. 3 billion people without clean water, 1 billion without electricity. But then he shifted, pulled out Maria's water filter. Simple, elegant, made from materials available anywhere, costing less than a coffee to manufacture. This isn't charity, he said. This is innovation under constraints. This is Morrison Tech becoming the company that doesn't just talk about changing the world but actually does it. A board member interrupted. What's the ROI? What's the path to profitability? The CEO stood. Do you know why I started Morrison Tech? Because 10 years ago, I needed technology that no one was building. I built this company on the idea that serving overlooked markets leads to breakthrough innovation. She pulled up slides. Every major Morrison Tech innovation had come from solving problems others ignored. Humanitarian tech isn't a departure from our mission. It's the purest expression of it. The room was silent. He seized the moment, brought out David's prosthetic prototype, passed it around, watched their faces change as they held it. Light. Strong. Beautiful. Something that could be made for $50 and change a life forever. The debate raged for hours. Traditional business wisdom versus transformative possibility. He watched the CEO work the room, not with manipulation, but with passion, reminding them of Morrison Tech's roots, of their mission statement. Finally, a vote. 7 against, 6, 4. He felt failure settling in his chest. But then Richard Stenbridge, the oldest, most conservative board member, raised his hand. I want to change my vote. My grandson was born with a limb difference. What about the families who can't afford the best? 7-6 became 7-7. The CEO cast the deciding vote. The Humanitarian Technology Division was approved. Barely, conditionally, but approved. Sometimes that's how change happens. Not with overwhelming mandates, but with narrow victories. With one person at a time remembering their humanity. The first year was harder than anyone imagined. Every victory came wrapped in 3 defeats. Maria's water filter worked perfectly in the lab, failed miserably in the field. Sand compositions were different. What worked in one village clogged in another. Maria spent months traveling, learning, adapting. Innovation through iteration. When was the last time you kept going when everything said stop? David's prosthetics faced distribution nightmares. How do you get 3D printers to clinics without electricity? Sarah's education software hit cultural walls no one anticipated. Communities suspicious of technology. She rewrote the code 17 times, simplified until it couldn't be simpler. The company whispers grew louder. The Humanitarian Division, burning through budgets, the CEO playing favorites, stock prices wobbled. Board meetings became battlegrounds. But then the story started coming back. A girl in Bangladesh sending her first email. To them. Thank you for helping me see the world. A boy in Kenya with a prosthetic leg scoring the winning goal. A village in Peru where children stopped dying from waterborne diseases. Not statistics, names, faces, lives. He kept every letter, every photo, pinned them to the walls of their corner conference room. When the board demanded better numbers, he showed them better lives. When investors questioned the strategy, he introduced them to the humans behind the humanitarian. We're not a charity, he told anyone who'd listen. We're an investment in the future. Every child who learns to code on our software might build the next Morrison Tech. We're not giving away technology. We're planting seeds in fields everyone else ignores. The CEO called him into her office on the anniversary of the rainy day. The board's patience is wearing thin. We need something that shows this isn't just feel-good philanthropy. We need proof that humanitarian tech can innovate in ways that matter to markets that pay. Have you ever been asked to justify compassion with capitalism? That night, he gathered his team. We need something that changes the game, not just for them, for everyone. What have we learned that no one else knows? By morning, they had it. Technologies refined in the crucible of necessity. Solutions so elegant they seemed obvious in hindsight. The humanitarian division hadn't just been doing charity. They'd been doing R&D in the world's most demanding laboratory. Reality. The presentation to the board was different this time. No pleading, just demonstrations. Maria's water filtration technology, adapted for disaster relief, now being purchased by governments worldwide. David's prosthetic interfaces, revolutionizing how all humans interacted with machines. Sarah's offline-first architecture, solving connectivity problems even Fortune 500 companies faced. How often do we discover that serving the least actually serves us most? Richard Stenbridge leaned forward. His grandson's prosthetic had been upgraded with David's technology. I've been in business for 40 years. I've never seen innovation like this, because it's not just innovation, it's imagination with purpose. The numbers finally made sense. The humanitarian division wasn't just sustainable, it was becoming Morrison Tech's most innovative lab. Constraints had bred creativity. The technologies developed for villages were transforming cities. But he never forgot the letters on the wall. During the meeting, he pulled out a new one. From the elderly woman whose coffee maker he'd fixed years ago. She'd heard about his work. Sent a check for $20. For your important work. From someone who knows what it means to be helped. This, he said, holding up the check, is our real investor. This is who we serve. Remembering her keeps our research human. The board voted, unanimous this time. Full funding for the humanitarian division. They finally understood that innovation born from compassion created value beyond calculation. That, the failed entrepreneur they doubted had built something none of them could have imagined. After the meeting, she found him in the corner conference room. Still no smartboards, but now covered with maps marking deployments. Photos of lives changed. The Shrine to Possibility had become a command center for transformation. You know what the best part is? She asked. None of this would have happened if you'd made it to your interview on time, if you hadn't stopped, if you'd chosen yourself over a stranger in the rain. Have you ever realized that your biggest inconvenience was actually your greatest opportunity? I have a confession, she said. I'd been sitting there for an hour, watching cars pass, testing humanity, wondering if anyone would stop. And then, you stopped, in your interview suit, with everything to lose, and I knew that there were still people worth building for. The technologies kept evolving, but more importantly, so did the people. Maria became the global head of sustainable innovation. David's prosthetics lab attracted the brightest minds. Sarah's education platform reached 10 million children in its second year. Success brought new challenges. Competitors launched copycat programs without the heart. Do you know how hard it is to stay human when the world wants to make you a hero? He kept fixing things, small things, broken printers, squeaky doors. His hands needed to stay connected to simple problems, to remember that not everything required innovation. Sometimes things just needed care. The 5th anniversary approached. The board planned a celebration, media coverage, stock prices that had tripled. But he wasn't interested in celebrations. He was interested in the letter that arrived that morning. From a young woman in Mumbai. She'd learned to code on Sarah's software, started a company, was now hiring others. You gave me a chance when I had nothing. Now I can give others the same chance. The CEO called another late-night meeting. Just the two of them. The board wants you to take over as CEO. You've earned it. What do you say? Have you ever been offered everything you thought you wanted, only to realize you wanted something else entirely? I'm honored, he said. But I belong here, with these people, solving problems for those who can't solve them alone. You're the CEO Morrison Tech needs. I'm just the guy who fixes things, who stops for flat tires. She wasn't surprised. Then we do it differently. Co-leadership. You run humanitarian tech with full autonomy. I handle the business that funds the mission. We meet in the middle. He smiled, extended his hand. The same firmness as that first day. The day that proved the universe has plans bigger than our own. The day that showed that sometimes the best partnerships are born in the rain, sealed with service and sustained by the belief that business exists to make life better for everyone. The transformation spread beyond Morrison Tech. Other companies started humanitarian divisions. But something was getting lost in translation. The heart was being replaced by strategy. Boardrooms full of executives talking about leveraging poverty for innovation. They understood the what, but not the why. Kanoe. You replicate compassion without feeling it. Can you scale kindness without practicing it? So he started a different program, not for executives, for fixers, mechanics and plumbers who understood that everything broken could be mended with care. He brought them to Morrison Tech, showed them how fixing toilets and fixing the world used the same skills. The program exploded. A plumber from Detroit designing water systems for drought regions, an electrician from Alabama creating solar solutions, each bringing their experience of making do with less to serve those who had even less. One morning, a letter arrived from the elderly woman who'd sent $20. She was dying, wanted to meet him, to thank him for fixing her coffee maker, for proving that kindness still existed. He went immediately, found her in a small apartment, the coffee maker still working. "You probably don't remember me," she said. "I remember everyone I've helped, because helping them helped me become who I was meant to be." She handed him an envelope. "My entire estate, maybe $100,000, for your work, to keep the kindness going. Do you understand the weight of being trusted with someone's entire legacy?" He tried to refuse. She insisted. Because a fixed coffee maker had meant more than any fortune. Because small acts deserved to be multiplied. She died a week later. He spoke at her funeral. 5 people attended, but he told her story to the world. The fund grew. Others contributed. 20s and 50s from people who'd been helped. Morrison Tech matched every dollar. The Fixers Fund became a movement, supporting those who served, proving that the biggest changes often started with the smallest choices. 10 years after the rainy day, Morrison Tech looked nothing like the company he'd tried to interview with. The humanitarian division had become its beating heart. The Fixers, trained in innovation, had started 1,000 companies. The ripples had become waves. He stood in the same spot where he'd changed her tire. The CEO beside him, both older, both wiser. They'd made it a tradition, every anniversary. Stand in the rain. Remember the choice that changed everything. Did you ever imagine this? She asked. I wasn't imagining anything, I was just doing what felt right. Choosing connection over achievement. Have you ever looked back and seen how perfectly your disasters positioned you for your destiny? A car splashed by, someone in a hurry. They watched for flat tires, ready to pay forward what had been paid to them, because they knew now what they couldn't have known then, that the most important meetings happened outside of offices. What's next? She asked. We've built something beautiful. What more is there? We keep stopping, he said. We keep choosing humans over hurry. We keep remembering that the most successful life isn't measured in what we achieve, but in who we help achieve. You see, that's the secret the universe whispers in the rain. That we're all just humans with flat tires. That the kindness we show when we have nothing to gain creates gains we can't imagine. That choosing to serve when we could succeed plants seeds that grow into forests of possibility. He helped a woman change her flat tire, not knowing she was his future boss. But more importantly, not caring. Because the moment we stop caring who we're helping is the moment we start becoming who we're meant to be. So what about you? Who will you stop for today? What kindness will you choose when choosing it costs you? Because somewhere in some rain, someone needs what you have to give. And you might think you're just changing a tire, but you're actually changing the world, one human choice at a time. Morrison Tech became a different company because one man stopped in the rain. But Morrison Tech is just a story. Your life is the reality. Your choices are the chances. So look for the flat tires. Stop for the strangers. Choose the human over the hurry. He helped a woman change her flat tire. The rest is history. Your history is still being written, one choice at a time, one act of inexplicable kindness at a time. The world is waiting for your kindness. Someone is waiting for you to stop. Like the video. Subscribe. Share your thoughts below. But more importantly, share your kindness with the world. This channel is for those who believe in the power of small acts to change lives. Be the person who stops. Because that's who you really are, the person who changes everything by changing one tire at a time.